Hi, welcome to my backyard. This is my first recording, and I am going to take you on a tour of my backyard. I'm notorious for having a lot of projects going at one time, so I hope to make more recordings as these projects either fail miserably or succeed over the course of months and years. So we've lived in this house for 3 years and have done quite a few things to the inside and the outside, but I'm going to focus this video on the outside. And I'm going to start off in the back corner. And this is the rose bush and clematis that I just planted this year, so it's looking really healthy. And I watch a lot of YouTube videos and have applied a lot of ideas, and that's what motivated me to make this video. Is I've used the cardboard instead of landscape fabric, so that as I come back around here and want to plant more flowers, I'll be able to cut through the cardboard, but the cardboard acts as a weed barrier initially. And let me pan out. And so this is the little small deck we made for my daughter many years ago when she was living in a rental. And when she moved, we brought it over here and put it in our backyard, and it is still holding together. These are our new trees. Eventually, my plan is to grow lavender across the back fence line. Let me take over here. More trees. This is today's project. I put down concrete pavers using Quikrete and a wonderful tool called Odd Job Bucket. It's got little fins so that when you roll it, so what I did is brought the concrete home all the way out in the driveway, and took the water in the bucket out there, put the concrete in, rolled it all the way up the driveway over to here, and the concrete was mixed. That makes it really easy way to mix your concrete. Now the stink of it is one bag of concrete only does 2 sets of pavers, so this is going to take me a while, but that's what I'm doing. I'm just taking my time. I'm not trying to get it done in one weekend. I'm just buying a couple bags of concrete each weekend and just making these paver patios as I have time. So hopefully I'll make a video on how exactly I make these pavers and have a video of that whole process. Here's another handy YouTube tool that we've put to use. That bucket in the ground over there is we have 3 large dogs, and this is the best way we've come up with of disposing of their waste. We've done this in multiple places over the yard. It acts as fertilizer just like cow manure, as long as you do not use it on edibles. So it fertilizes the trees wonderfully. We just filled in this hole right here yesterday, actually. When we dug that hole, we moved the dirt over to here and filled in this hole, so the grass will grow back over that. The best additive you can put in with the dog waste is your grass cuttings. So that's what, after we covered over it, we cleaned out the lawn more, so that's not waste, that's actually just grass clippings. that's on top of that. But every time we cut the grass, we put grass clippings, some grass clippings, not all of them, in the bucket, and that helps biodegrade the waste. And with 3 large dogs, that bucket, and because it's a pretty small bucket, you cut the bottom out, dig a hole, and then the waste, of course, you know, then that way when you're done, you pull the bucket rim, because that's all you have left, out, fill in the hole, and that allows it to go back into the ground. So that's been wonderful. These posts are for my garden over here. Eventually we're gonna bury these into the ground all the way, and they're gonna go here, and I'm gonna have a screen door. I'm gonna find an old screen door at a salvage store, put a screen door up. Again, another idea off of the multiple YouTube channels. My favorite YouTube channel is Roots and Refuge. That's where I got the screen door idea and the archway. So I've got pole beans. Actually, these are noodle beans, and hopefully they'll just weave their way up this trellis. And I just transplanted them from that side to this side, so I'm really hoping they'll survive. But hopefully beans will go up this side and cover the archway. I'm also using this to stake up my tomato plants. And I have a pepper plant, butternut squash, and a little pumpkin down there at the end. That's a slicer. This is cherry tomatoes, and around the edges are flowers, and that's a sweet pepper bush down there. We're going to come back around. This is archway is made of a cattle panel. It's 4 foot by 18 foot, and you can use these T-posts to stake it off. Again, I got this idea off of Roots and Refuge YouTube channel, and she was pretty accurate. It's about $33 by the time you buy the T-post and the cattle panel. They have smaller panels that we have found called pig panels, and they're only 3 foot high and 16 feet, and that's what we're going to put around here for this year. That's what these T-posts are for. We're going to come around and just hang the pig post up high so that the plants can grab hold of the pig panels around the outside. We hope to come back around and put something around the bottom, possibly wood or tin, to keep the critters out. But that's my garden. I'm pretty excited. This is actually my first year I grew. I had a raised bed last year that was probably 4 foot by 6 foot, and grew 2 tomato plants that went absolutely crazy. And that's what motivated me to give this bigger garden a try and see if I can have as much luck this year with my tomato plants. It's been a lot of fun. I really get a lot of fulfillment out of seeing the plants grow, which is really surprising because that used to never be something I had the patience for. This area here, you can see it's pretty much under construction. What we hope to do here in the next year is to build a greenhouse around this table. So it'll be a very small greenhouse, but a place that we can start seeds and put up more shelving. And it won't be very big. It'll just have enough space here in front of the table to stand and come out off of both sides of the table, and have a doorway here that I get into it from here. So that's my hope with this. This again is another project in the works. We never could really figure out what we wanted to do with this. Initially, when we very first moved, my son had all his workout gear here. We washed our 3 dogs. We made little washing stations, and we did that for a while. We hung these up to hang our bikes, which obviously we haven't done yet. I hate that this space tends to be the junk catch-all, so I'm really anxious to do something nice with it. My son came up with a great idea, but I may have to wait for his next visit home to help us start the construction on it, is to hang a beam from the center, or somehow, we haven't quite figured out, but have a hanging chair that hangs here in the center of this area, so that it becomes a nice place to come and sit in the rain. But we still have to finish off the roof and the insides. Again, we have lots of projects going on at the same time, so always partially done. Along with the rose in the back and the clematis, I bought another clematis here. My hope is that it becomes so big that it encompasses this whole area, this whole corner, and then I can come back around and add more plants as the clematis grows and takes over. I can surround it with other plants, possibly maybe even a climbing rose, but I need to let this little clematis develop. It seems to be struggling. I think it maybe gets too much sun, I'm not sure. This was the first thing that we did. This was just a simple carport, just a utility carport. It had a metal roof and just metal poles, and we enclosed it in wood and screened it. You can see we haven't finished our screening. Again, multiple projects that we don't seem to quite get finished, but we will, because other things get in the way. But we started the screening of this, and in the winter, well, in the fall, we enclose it in plastic, and kind of have a 3-season room. The fencing around it here is because, again, we have the large dog, and when I'm at work, I leave the back door open, lock up the carport, and close it up and lock it, and then he can come out here. That's his pool that he can come out here and relax in. This was this morning's project, along with the pavers, I had to clean up. This was my first garden. Before I ever started even any tomato plants, the first year we lived here, I started this garden. I planted that blackberry bush and a lilac bush. I call it a snowball bush. And the neat thing is that all these bushes were gifts that my kids had given me for Mother's Day. I believe I've got a hydrangea trying to grow there. I just cleared out all the weeds. This was pretty much taken over by weeds, and planted a cutting flower garden. This little guy trying to survive here with some basil that I had planted in a pot, and it was struggling. So I thought, well, maybe it'll do better in the ground, because I have peppermint plants. This mint plants had taken over this whole area last year, so I ripped all of those up in the fall, and this is what came back naturally. I didn't have to replant those. So we'll see how invasive that gets as the summer passes. But I did plant about 4 rows of cutting flowers, so I'm hoping that those flowers will come up. We're excited about the blackberries. When those are ready to harvest, I'm going to attempt to make blackberry jelly. So if that's successful, I'll make a video of that as well. Hopefully, there's a lot of blackberries, so I'm thinking even if the birds eat some, I'm still going to be able to get blackberries off of this. I think this blackberry bush, I've heard how invasive they are, and this one pretty much has taken this over in last year, and then this got even bigger this year. So I expect that I'm going to need to put up another cow panel that goes across the back here and let the blackberry bush come all the way over here. We made this hanging bed. We love this. I come out here a lot of mornings and relax here on the bed when things are quiet, and I can get my coffee and go out to the garden and then lay on the bed for a few minutes. This year's big thing is I'm starting a lot of plants from seeds. This is just a simple little flower garden that I just threw all the seeds in here, covered them. So over there I've got seeds started. I just did these yesterday, so they are still germinating. They have not come up at all. So I've got some petunias, a green bean I'm trying to bring up, a bunch of lavender. So we'll see if those germinate. These I did the same thing. I just threw the seeds in here, covered them with a wet rag, you know, watered down the dirt, put the seeds in, covered them with a wet rag, and they have come up to there. So they seem to have kind of stayed at this stage for quite a while, so I'm not sure how they're doing. Here I've had a lot of luck germinating some tomato plants. Kind of more than I don't know what I was thinking. Some of these, I know this one, and again, this being my first attempt, kind of lost track of everything. I marked some of them. This is going to be a slicer. These three. I think everything in this tray are big tomato slicer, you know, big normal size tomato plants. So I'm going to have to get those in the ground. This is lemon balm. This is a little patio tomato. So that's the one I kind of have lost track of which one are the small miniature patio tomatoes. I've got some morning glory seeds in this little teacup that I'm hoping will sprout and wrap themselves around the outside. I'm going to let the morning glories grow up over the edges of this of my baker's rack there, and hopefully the morning glories will take over that baker's rack. In August, I'm going to, late July or early August, I'm going to plant some of your early spring seeds, the lettuces, collard greens. Bring them to seed, and then when they have reached maturity, then most of the stuff that's growing out there, the beans, they will have ran their course, and I can move because the weather will have cooled down into September and October, and I can take those young plants and move them out to the garden. So that's pretty much everything I'm up to right